Hey, Black Midi broke up. Why? Why did Black Midi break up? Or at least they're on a hiatus, but why? What's up, it's a Culture Detective here, investigating your favorite albums, and today I'm going to be doing a quick mini album review video where I review a bunch of albums very fast, all in one video, because I haven't listened to these albums enough to make a full-length individual review, but also because I just don't want to listen to them too much because I wouldn't have that much to say about these albums anyways. So starting off, we have the new Imagine Dragons album, Loom. New Imagine Dragons album, Loom. I've been wanting to review this for the last 2 months, but I kept putting it off because I kept not wanting to listen to it. Because Imagine Dragons is the most hated band in the world right now. And I think needless to say, I went in with extremely low expectations. And honestly, their new album, Loom, it's not that bad. It's honestly kind of interesting to see Imagine Dragons trying to pick themselves back up after the disaster that is Mercury Acts 1 and 2. This is actually them attempting to make a summer album with a lot of dance bangers and all that. The album opener, Wake Up, is actually a very interesting track in my opinion. This is partly terrible and partly really good at the same time. I've never heard anything like this from Imagine Dragons before. We have driving beats, very tiresome, frustrated melodies, and it's honestly really refreshing for something to come out of Imagine Dragons. It's actually kind of catchy, but at the same time, it's still not good. It still sounds very awkward. The lyrics are still very dumb. And then following that, we have Nice to Meet You and Take Me to the Beach. And on these two tracks, obviously, Imagine Dragons is trying to do this summery tropical thing. Ooh, we're on the beach, we're having fun. And again, it's interesting to see them go to this direction, and it lends itself to some interesting production choices. I don't know, did they change their producer? But the beats on this album, the instrumentals, their arrangements is actually much more layered than their music usually, yet at the same time it's still kind of bad. It's actually very interesting. But what I can say though is that I'm glad they're not making the same epic explosive song again and again, which I can't say for the album ending Eyes Closed, which is a meat and potatoes Imagine Dragons. It's annoying, it's obnoxious, I don't want to listen to it again. And once again, the entire album, throughout its entire duration, Dan Reynolds still yells his way through every single track. So overall, it's still a bad album, but it's already the best thing Imagine Dragons has released since Smoke and Mirrors. I'm giving this album a 4 out of 10. The second album I'm going to be talking about is the new Denzel Curry album, King of the Mischievous South Volume 2. Mischievous? Yeah. So Denzel Curry is one of the most consistent rappers. He's been making music for a long time now, yet he's still like every album just keeps getting better and better and better, or at least consistently as good as the last. And on this album, first of all, where's volume 1? There's volume 2, but where's volume 1? I tried to look through his mixtapes. Maybe a long time ago he's made a volume 1, but I have no idea where volume 1 is. I'm very interested in hearing that. But this album is trying to sound like a mixtape. The production is a little rough around the edges, it's a little dusty, and genre-wise, he basically indulges in southern hip-hop and hardcore rap. And yeah, I think every single track is pretty solid. There are a lot of grimy beats, dusty trap beats, and there are a lot of aggressive and unhinged moments from Denzel Curry himself. The performance and the flows are 10 out of 10. Amazing. The beats and the instrumentals themselves don't necessarily wow me at all. I say 10 out of 10, but then I realize that in a review, a 10 out of 10 is a really huge deal. I say 10 out of 10 as in it sounds really good. The instrumentals, however, did not wow me or anything, and a lot of the tracks just kind of remain same throughout the entire album. So it's a little dull at times, unfortunately. I have to give this album a 7 out of 10. New Jack White album called No Name. Apparently, Jack White released this album in vinyl form in record stores months before this album is released on digital platforms, which is great. I think by doing this, the artists and the fans of these artists have to support physical media, which is great because physical media is dying these days. So I support this move completely. But finally, I got to listen to this album, and it is a whole album of just simple, raw, wild garage rock, hard rock music. No experimentation, no weird interludes, nothing. Very straightforward, just a set of good old hard rock tracks, and it's pretty great. We have Old Scratch Blues, the opening track, and it's lo-fi, it's blunt, it slaps, and Jack White has been making music for a long time, for decades, and he still managed to sound as young and as fresh as ever. The track Archbishop Harold Holmes, I actually really like it. I like the grimy, chugging guitar riffs on this track. The track Missionary has some really great vocal chops, and I feel like I would have been able to listen to this and enjoy this way better if the mixing of this album on Spotify isn't terrible, because it is terrible. It sounds very muffled on Spotify. I feel like they played the vinyl and they recorded the sound of that vinyl and just directly put it on Spotify. Yeah, otherwise, this is a really solid album, and it's great to see Jack White sort of returning to that hard rock roots. Feeling a decent 8 on this thing. Then we have the new Logic album, Ultra 85. So Logic, like a couple years ago, announced that he retired, and just like Hayao Miyazaki, he never retires because he keeps putting out new albums, new instrumental albums, new mixtapes, new this, new that, like literally every single year. But finally we have Ultra 85, and this album has caused some buzz because this is easily his best album thus far. Once again, there's no huge genre change or anything. Logic does his usual thing, boom bap, rap music, and pretty solid rap music, jazz rap, a bit here and there. Once again, Logic goes with this, very tight-paced, lyrical miracle kind of flow. And, usually I use lyrical miracle to poke fun at rappers who care too much about lyrics and rhymes and not about how catchy and interesting the production of a song is. But truth be told, the lyrics on this album is easily its main course. There are a lot of amazing introspective lyrics on this album where Logic sort of reflects on his past, abuse, trauma, using music as a means to move away from trauma and abuse. The album opener, Paul Rodriguez, is 9 minutes long, and it's great. There's a lot of lush jazz instrumentals on this track. That's pretty fantastic. The track Once Upon a Time in Hollywood sees Logic using Tarantino films to describe his own life and the way his life changes. And also the track In Retrospect sees him trying to analyze his haters and trying to put himself at their shoes, which is a little bit over analytical, but nonetheless a very interesting track. And lots of solid flows and solid rhymes throughout the album. One issue though, it's too long. It's 1 hour and 17 minutes long. It doesn't have to be too long. Some tracks definitely can be cut down, trimmed down, and it would be fine. But it's a little too long, let's be honest here. 7 out of 10. Krallice, Inorganic Rights. Krallice is one of the more consistently great avant-garde metal bands and atmospheric black metal bands of the last decade or so. And every time they release an album, it's also pretty good. And I can say the same for their new album, In Organic Rights. I love how atmospheric it is. I love how experimental it is. I love how dusty and spacey and moody and at times alien-like the music is. There are a lot of huge songs, 13 minutes long, 10 minutes long. But nonetheless, this album, just like their previous few albums, pretty much work in the same area, the same framework. There's nothing all that groundbreaking or surprising about their albums. I would like to see them explore this genre a little more, maybe go to a completely different direction, who knows. But this album didn't wow me. It sounds good, but it didn't wow me at all. 7 out of 10. New Remi Wolf album, Big Ideas. I don't know why, but I feel like lately there has been this surge of random singer-songwriters, especially women singer-songwriters out of nowhere, like Remi Wolf and Chappell Roan and like other people. I don't know where did they all come from, but it's a pretty interesting phenomenon. Anyways, this is a pretty cut and dry, simple pop rock album. There's some really good production on this thing. There's some really good vocal chops on this thing. Apparently she was on American Idol or something, so congratulations, I guess. But unfortunately, I feel like a lot of the tracks on this album, while they sound good, they're just more of the same feel-good pop music. I feel like I don't need to listen to more of this kind of feel-good pop music, and rock sometimes is just not her strong suit. The track Alone in Miami, not a big fan, unfortunately. Cherries and Cream, the vocals are too badly mixed and the instrumentals felt sloppy. But nonetheless, there are also a lot of highlights here. Cinderella is a very fun opener. I love the shouty vocals. It's youthful, it's lively. The track Toro is an explosive song where I guess she makes My Neighbor Totoro references and singing about how she's horny or something. I don't know what's going on. What I can say though is that the chorus is amazingly catchy. And the bonus track on the album, Slay Bitch, is awesome. This track is awesome because it didn't take itself too seriously. It has these screechy pitched vocals and the instrumentals are so summery and lush and blissful. It honestly sounds amazing. So that's a 7 out of 10 from me. I have to wear this. My hair is unbearable. Anyways, new album from electronic artist Ski Mask Resort. This is an ambient techno IDM album and very much influenced by Aphex Twin, but I would say that its influence used well. This looks weird, but go with it. I love how spacey and airy the music on this album is, and it also feels really small. It feels like the music on this album is not trying to impress you, but it's more focused on textures and details. The track Schneider's Paradox has the light keyboards and rubbery bass paired with deconstructed drum and bass. Sounds impeccable. Reminisce Remix also falls in a similar drum and bass category, which I really love. The track Huzzles Was a Dancer is, as expected, easily the most accessible track here. It is danceable, it's some easygoing techno house beat, and it sounds fantastic. And then we have the more ambient moments on the album, like Terminal Z and Nostalglitch, which has some great bits of ambient music. When I listen to it, I feel like I'm trapped in some alternate world, some sci-fi film, some mood board maybe. So yeah, this is a very interesting and textured electronic album, feeling an 8 on this thing. Finally, we have the new album from Serrini, and I'd like to sneak this album here because this is an album from a Hong Kong singer-songwriter. The title is Rage in Peace. And I feel like if you want to get into Hong Kong music, she's one of the best artists to start, especially when it comes to modern music, contemporary canto pop, because unlike a lot of other canto pop singers now, her music is actually at least a little bit interesting and not the same formulaic bullshit that most canto pop singers shit out every single year, for God's sakes. Yeah, her new album is called Rage in Peace, and I didn't really like it as much at first, even though I liked some of her music before. But after repeated listens, it grew on me a lot. There are actually a variety of subgenres on this album, despite labeling it as canto pop, because it's Cantonese and pop music. There's actually a lot of like art pop. There's some ballads on this thing. Some of the ballads on this album have this magical, fantastical feel to it. It actually reminds me of Spelling's The Turning Wheel. And there's a track called, if I could translate it directly from Chinese to English, it would be Happy Animal Syndrome. And this track is this big, bright pop song that sounds kind of basic at first, but then it introduces these watery pianos and crazy string sections that's actually kind of mind blowing. There's also a lot of 90s canto pop nostalgia and lyrics mainly about taking care of your mental health, relaxing, taking a rest, thus the album title Rage in Peace. You can rage, you can be angry, but you also need to be at peace. Relax, sit down, have a nice cup of tea. I don't know, relax yourselves. Stay cool. But at the end of the day, this album is still kind of safe and inoffensive, and definitely nowhere near as interesting as her last album, Gwendolyn, which is this Lady Gaga-ish art pop excursion. I remember that Serrini actually did an interview a few years ago saying that she wants more experimental music and more challenging and daring music in Hong Kong. But unfortunately, I can at least name like 10 to 15 artists in Hong Kong that is way more interesting and way more experimental than Serrini. Serrini, you can do better than this. I believe in you. So yeah, this album is a 7 out of 10. So, have you listened to these albums? Comments below. Let me know. Subscribe if you want more, and thanks for watching.